Hey there, good day, and I believe you're all doing fine. I didn't want to do this at first, but I felt I should. It's a personal testimony about a time in my life. It was a time in my life, and I mean, a truly dark, hopeless time, when I felt completely useless. Despair wasn't just a mood, it was who I was. Pain and I were practically glued together. I came out of that season having learned incredible lessons, but trust me, I wouldn't wish that journey, that deep torture, on my worst enemy, let alone want to walk it again. So, please, buckle up. I'm going to take you through that entire experience and show you exactly how God showed up and delivered me from an absolute nightmare, a physical and emotional prison. Before I really get into the details, I need to know something. Where are you watching from right now? Seriously, drop a comment below and tell me your country or city. We're a family spread all over this planet, and I want us to be able to know where specifically we're connecting with each other and possibly include each other in prayers that let's stand together as the body of Christ and support each other, no matter the distance. My name is David, and I was 28 years old when my world completely fell apart. It was March 15, 2019, just an ordinary Friday morning when I woke up feeling unusually tired. I assumed it was just the flu. Everyone at my office had been getting sick, so I thought nothing of it. I took some medicine, drank orange juice, and went to bed early that night, expecting to feel better by Monday. But Monday never came the way I expected. Instead of improving, I got worse. My fever climbed higher, my joints ached in ways I'd never experienced, and a strange numbness began creeping through my fingers and toes. My wife, Rebecca, insisted we go to the emergency room. I remember sitting in that hospital waiting room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, thinking this was all an overreaction. I'd be home by dinner, I told myself. 3 days later, I was still in the hospital, and the doctors were using words I didn't understand. Autoimmune disorder. Systemic inflammation. Neurological complications. They ran test after test, drawing blood, taking images, poking and prodding while I lay there feeling more helpless with each passing hour. When they finally let me go home, I wasn't the same person who had walked through those hospital doors. I couldn't walk more than 5 minutes without my chest heaving for air. My heart would race uncontrollably, tachycardia, they called it, beating so fast I thought it might burst through my ribcage. One moment, I'd feel sharp, burning sensations in my nerve endings, like tiny needles dancing under my skin. The next moment, crushing headaches would slam into my skull, making me want to curl up in a dark room and disappear. Everything became about this one word, autoimmune. It was like a blanket they threw over all my symptoms, an explanation that explained nothing. Why was this happening? Why me? Why now? I had been so active before this. Just months earlier, I could work out for 4 to 5 minutes straight, pushing my body, feeling strong and capable. I'd been working on my balance, trying new exercises, feeling proud of what my body could do. Now, I couldn't walk down the hallway of my own home without needing to stop and rest. The distance from my bedroom to the kitchen felt like climbing a mountain. The diagnoses kept coming like waves crashing over me, each one pulling me further under. Rheumatoid arthritis. Lupus. Fibromyalgia. Chronic fatigue syndrome. Peripheral neuropathy. 5 separate autoimmune conditions, each with its own list of medications, side effects, and limitations. The doctors sat me down with serious faces and gentle voices, preparing me for a future I didn't want to accept. They told me I needed to think about long-term care. They mentioned wheelchairs in that careful way doctors have when they're trying not to scare you but need you to face reality. They suggested I talk to Rebecca about making our house wheelchair accessible, widening doorways, installing ramps, converting the bathroom. They showed me pamphlets with smiling people in wheelchairs, as if glossy paper could make this future easier to swallow. I sat there listening, nodding, but inside I was screaming. The worst part wasn't the physical pain, though that was terrible enough. The worst part was watching my life shrink. I had to quit my job. I couldn't handle the commute, couldn't sit at a desk for 8 hours, couldn't think clearly through the fog that seemed to have taken up permanent residence in my brain. Friends stopped calling because I'd cancelled plans so many times. My nephew's birthday party, my best friend's wedding, Sunday dinners with my parents, I missed them all because I simply didn't have the energy to leave my house. Rebecca became my caretaker instead of my wife. She'd help me in and out of the shower, remind me to take my pills, hold my hand when the pain got so bad I couldn't stop crying. I saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the worry lines deepening on her forehead, and I felt like I was drowning her along with me. But something inside me refused to give up completely. I remember lying in bed one particularly bad morning, staring at the ceiling, my body screaming with pain from head to toe. I had a choice in that moment. I could let this disease define my story, or I could fight back with the only weapon I had left: my words, my thoughts, my faith. I started speaking to my body like it could hear me, like it was listening. I told my body we were getting better. I told my body we were getting stronger. I refused to stay in this place of hopelessness, even when hope felt like the most ridiculous thing in the world to cling to. On July 3, 2019, my life took an unexpected turn. My neighbor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen, had been checking on me regularly, bringing soup and offering prayers. She mentioned her church was having a special prayer service that evening and asked if I wanted to attend. Normally, I would have declined. Getting dressed and leaving the house felt like preparing for battle. But something in her eyes, some quiet insistence, made me say yes. Rebecca helped me into the car, and we drove to a small church I'd passed 100 times but never entered. The building was modest, with white walls and simple wooden pews. As we walked in, slowly, painfully, with me leaning heavily on Rebecca's arm, I felt dozens of eyes turn toward us, filled with compassion rather than pity. After the service, 2 people approached us. Pastor Michael and Sister Grace introduced themselves with warm handshakes and gentle smiles. They asked if they could pray for me, not in that performative way some religious people do, but with genuine care in their voices. We found a quiet corner, and they placed their hands on my shoulders. I tried to remember exactly what they were praying for, but the specific words escaped me. What I remember instead was the moment, the exact second, when everything changed. As they prayed, warmth flooded through my hands. For the first time in 4 months, I could feel my fingers properly. Not just the vague sense that they were there, but actual sensation, the texture of my jeans under my palms, the temperature of the air, the slight pressure of Rebecca's hand holding mine. I gasped, and tears started streaming down my face. That night marked the beginning of something extraordinary. Over the following weeks and months, God kept meeting me in those quiet morning moments. Before dawn, when the house was still and Rebecca was sleeping, I'd sit in my favorite chair by the window and pray. Sometimes words came easily. Other times, I just sat in silence, feeling His presence like a warm blanket settling over my shoulders. In those moments, God revealed things to me that I desperately needed to hear. He showed me that if I said yes to Him, if I walked in the things He was asking of me, He would not only heal my body but also heal the relationships and circumstances around me that had been damaged by my illness. He made it clear that this wasn't just about physical restoration, it was about becoming whole in every way. I started doing small things. Walking to the end of the driveway and back. Standing while I ate breakfast instead of sitting. Spending 5 minutes in prayer, then 10, then 20. Each day, I pushed a little further, not in my own strength but in this strange new strength that seemed to come from somewhere outside myself. The changes were gradual but undeniable. My tachycardia episodes became less frequent. The numbness in my hands and feet started receding like a tide going out. The crushing headaches that had been my constant companion began spacing themselves out, one every few days instead of every few hours. I went back to my doctors for follow-up appointments, expecting to discuss managing my conditions long-term. Instead, they looked at my test results with confused expressions. The inflammation markers were dropping. The antibody levels were changing. Things that should have been getting worse were improving instead. I'll never forget the appointment in November 2019 when my rheumatologist sat across from me, looking at my chart like it was written in a foreign language. She told me that based on my current test results and physical examination, I no longer met the diagnostic criteria for 4 of my 5 autoimmune conditions. The 5th, the fibromyalgia, was showing such significant improvement that she was comfortable saying I was in remission. She asked me what I'd been doing differently. Had I tried a new treatment? Changed my diet dramatically? Started some experimental therapy? I told her the truth. I'd been praying and choosing to believe God was healing me. She smiled politely, the way medical professionals do when they don't want to dismiss your beliefs but also don't share them, and told me to keep doing whatever I was doing. But I knew. I knew exactly what was happening. The phrase God kept bringing to my mind during those morning prayer times was simple but powerful. He told me He didn't have time for my disease, that He had things for me to do. At first, I didn't understand what that meant. What things? What purpose could I possibly serve in my broken state? As I got stronger, the answer became clearer. I started volunteering at the same church where Pastor Michael and Sister Grace had prayed for me. I shared my story with others who were struggling with chronic illness, not as someone who had all the answers but as someone who understood their pain and could point them toward hope. Rebecca and I began hosting a small group in our home for people dealing with health challenges, creating a space where they could be honest about their struggles without judgment. One of the reasons I struggled to write this testimony is because we're so used to hearing stories at the end, when everything is perfect and tied up with a bow. The person stands before the congregation, completely healed, with nothing left to overcome. But that's not where I am yet, and I think that's okay. In fact, I think it's important for people to know that God's healing isn't always instant and complete in the way we expect. Today, as I sit here writing this, I can tell you honestly that I don't have those 5 diagnoses the doctors gave me. The autoimmune disorders that they said would define the rest of my life have released their grip. The wheelchair they wanted me to prepare for sits in someone else's home, not mine. The house modifications Rebecca and I discussed never happened because I didn't need them. I can walk now, not just down the hallway but around my neighborhood, through parks, upstairs. I have feeling in my nerve endings, sensation in my fingers and toes that I thought I'd lost forever. My heart beats at a normal rhythm. The fog in my brain has lifted, and I can think clearly again. I work part-time now, building back up to full-time, reclaiming pieces of my life that I thought were gone forever. But I want to be completely honest with you. I still have hard days. Some mornings, I wake up with pain that reminds me of those dark months. Some days, the fatigue tries to creep back in, whispering that maybe this healing isn't real, maybe it's all temporary. On those days, I do what I've learned to do. I get up, and God meets me that morning with His healing power. Again and again, day after day, He shows up. I'm not standing before you completely whole with nothing left to heal, though I believe that day is coming. Instead, I'm sitting before you completely healed in many areas, still walking forward in faith for complete restoration. And here's what I've learned. God's healing is yours every day. It's not just a one-time miracle that happens and then it's over. It's a daily choice to receive what He's offering, to believe His good even when circumstances are hard, to keep saying yes even when everything in you wants to give up. My story isn't finished yet, but the chapters God has already written are more beautiful than anything I could have imagined when I was lying in that hospital bed, scared and confused, wondering if life would ever be normal again. He took my broken body, my shattered hope, my desperate prayers, and is weaving them into something that brings Him glory and brings others hope. If you're reading this from a place of pain, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, I want you to know that God sees you. He hasn't forgotten you. Your story isn't over. Keep choosing hope, keep speaking life to your body and your circumstances, keep saying yes to whatever God is asking of you. He will meet you there, just like He's met me, and He will do more than you can ask or imagine. Every morning is a new opportunity for God to show up with His healing power. And He will. I promise you, He will. As we close, I want to take a moment to remember our brothers and sisters around the world who are being persecuted for their faith. Right now, there are believers in prison cells, in hiding, suffering torture and death simply because they refuse to deny Jesus. Please join me in praying for them, for their protection, their courage, and for the salvation of those who persecute them. And if you're reading this and you've never given your life to Christ, today can be your day of salvation. It's simple. God, I know I'm a sinner and I need you. I believe Jesus died for my sins and rose again. Come into my heart, forgive me, and make me new. I choose to follow you from this day forward. Amen. If you prayed that prayer, welcome to the family. Please comment below. I want to celebrate with you. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can continue reaching people with hope and truth.